Ross, welcome to PTC 2022 in Hawaii. Beautiful weather, weird sky, but beautiful weather. And Ross, if everyone doesn't know, is our head of energy at Yonder. And let's get straight into it, Ross. I mean, 2021 was an interesting year, and the last 2 years basically was an interesting year. And specifically last year with COP26 and this even bigger, I guess, impact and pledge for renewables and energy. I want to sort of pick your brain on what has changed in the energy business in the last few years, and how do you see 2022 change and evolve in that business?
It's been an exciting and challenging few years, there's no doubt about that. And I think a lot of what we've seen, it's all kind of coming into focus now. The trend and the drive, as you mentioned, around COP, that's still continuing. People still want to decarbonise, people have their pledges and they're all coming out with that. You look at the other trends there around where demand is going. Electricity demand has been continuing over the last number of years and looks set to increase. Where is that demand going to be met from? And we know that the push is towards renewables. But what's important to remember is 2/3 of the demand comes from corporate and industrial customers.
Yep.
And whilst you have all the governments making their pledges and doing their part, you can really see over the last number of years, corporations really leading the charge in terms of that role in terms of getting to decarbonisation. So they're some of the things that we've seen. The backdrop has been, a lot of volatility around wholesale power and gas prices. The renewables that we're trying to deploy, people are realising, okay, wind is intermittent, it's not always going to blow, the sun isn't always going to shine like it is here today. So you have to look at what are the other kind of complementary technologies that are going to help, and you're looking at storage. So it's really, the last number of years, it's kind of, and certainly in the last year, it's kind of really accelerating where we need to get to. Looking at those other technologies, but also a stark reminder that the likes of gas is still has a role to play in the transition. And that there was never a year that was more apparent than last year. So that's really kind of just a reminder around that.
Yeah. And you and I talked about a very common industry term, PPAs, right? So maybe give us a lay of the land of PPAs, and maybe what's your view on how PPA maybe should be different or should be used in a completely different way on how the industry has been doing it over the last few years.
Yeah. I think, and obviously I'm an energy guy, but I think we've all been kind of guilty of maybe overcomplicating things, or maybe people think that we understand things, and we probably have to just take a step back and kind of explain. If we go and look at the evolution of what's happened and this drive towards green energy and what people are looking for, it all started out kind of 10 or 15 years ago. Large energy users using a lot of electricity were looking at ways to try and do things better, to try and access green energy. Now, the instruments and the mechanisms weren't around, and it's evolved since then, which is brilliant. Access and procuring green certificates was kind of the first step. So whatever you were consuming, you were offsetting it then with green certificates. But then people realised we need to do more. So that trend of trying to do more is still there, and it's still happening, which is great. Then you got onto a space of, can we access PPAs? Can we access generation capacity from renewables, from solar, from wind, and enter into contracts? And a PPA is essentially a power purchase agreement where you have a buyer and a seller agreeing to buy electricity from a wind project for, say, 10 years. You get access to the green certs, and you come up with a price that you're willing to pay. What does that give you? It helps you with your renewable energy targets. It gives you that traceability that you're getting, from an actual kind of wind farm. There's no capital expenditure. You as a corporation can just focus on your business. You don't have to worry about deploying equity into projects and investing. There's no capex on that side of things. And with the backdrop of where energy prices are and the volatility that's been there over the last number of years, what we've seen recently, and it's going to go on into the future, it's a mechanism to hedge your power prices as well. So it's making good business sense. As you mentioned, it's evolving, and change is good. And a few of the things that we're starting to see is, some of the major cloud providers are really leading the way in this space. They've brought it from a place of 100% matching on an annual basis.
Yep.
So kind of offsetting and against their consumption with a PPA on an annual basis, bringing it to, they want to do it on an hourly basis. And that's not without its challenges. That's referred to as 24/7 carbon-free energy. And I think people will see that all the technology and the solutions aren't there. But when you have some of the main players in the industry coming out with a very proven track record, it's going to pave the way for different parties, different stakeholders to get involved to try and get us there. You've also got a case there now where, as renewable markets mature in certain markets, in Europe, in North America, the mechanisms that were there at the beginning to instigate or to kind of get the investment in these projects and get they needed government support, they're now finishing. They're coming out of government support. And you've got a situation there where there's still life left in these wind projects, in these solar projects, and they'll be looking for a route to market. And what does that mean? That means you've got other, say, players, other energy users in the market that can now get access to green electricity, shorter term contracts. So it's good for everyone. So we're just seeing, as time passes, as people have kind of their own renewable targets, and as they kind of shift, we're seeing just a whole load of new solutions, which is exciting, and it gives everyone a chance to play their role in the clean energy transition.
Awesome. So maybe one final question for you, and sort of putting your 8-ball hat on. We're still in January, still early in 2022. What would be, I guess, the key points to take away on what other things we could do better as an industry, or maybe your own views on how the prediction for 2022 would look like?
It's a very interesting question, and I think what we're seeing, and even kind of from the conversations that I'm having here, there's a recognition that corporations, industry players, everyone wants to play a role. And what's coming more into the spotlight now is that collaboration is kind of key. So if you're going to embark on a renewable strategy, if you're a data center or whoever it is, or if you're a smaller or medium-sized energy user, it's trying to work with the right people to navigate your way through an ever-evolving and changing regulatory landscape, different wholesale markets and the kind of legislation and the market rules around that. So it's finding the right partners and trusted advisors to kind of help you on that journey. But certainly the intent is there, people want to play a role, and it's just trying to really understand exactly what those solutions look like and come up with new solutions. Things are changing and evolving at a rapid pace, and it's an exciting place to be. So one of the things that's really resonating with me here is that energy is coming more and more into the conversation. You look at any of the data center conferences or technology conferences or any conference in any industry that's just specific to that industry, energy is coming and sustainability are coming more into the conversation, which I think is a good thing. And I think it's an exciting year to see what happens.
Awesome. Well, always nice to speak to you, Ross. So have a great time in Hawaii. Thank you.